in Blantyre has been investigating why.
Girls fainting en masse in Malawi. It's as bewildering to hear it as it is to see it. In a classroom full of students, first one slumps forward and is lifted to the ground for safety. Then another, then another, then another, until there's no more room to lay them down. After a few minutes, each girl sits up, dusts herself off, and continues with whatever she's doing. What is going on in Ngapani, a remote village in eastern Malawi, is an unrelenting case of mass hysteria. About 60 children, almost all girls, are fainting on a regular basis. But it's not so uncommon here. A similar outbreak was reported at a secondary school in Malawi's capital, Blantyre, just last year. Usually, though, the fainting goes on for a few days or a few weeks. This one has been going on for 8 months. Mr. Kasambe is deputy head of the school where it began.
The parents told us that there are some rumors that the learners are being bewitched by teachers.
The teachers are shocked and dismiss such accusations. But student attendance dwindled from 1,200 to just 99. A medical team, thinking it was malaria, drove up from the nearest hospital 2 hours away. And many of the girls did test positive for malaria. But that's not so unusual here, and it wasn't why they were fainting. To back up a psychological diagnosis, some of the girls talked of seeing disturbing visions just before they fainted.
I first fainted on a Sunday afternoon. I saw a snake and naked people. Then I felt dizzy and collapsed.
Another girl said she saw someone with a knife and then a friend with a stick beating her before she too collapsed. Dr. George Stewart is a child psychiatrist at the College of Medicine in Blantyre. What I wanted to know from him was, how does such an epidemic start?
The trigger generally is one person, and it's much more frequent in girls than boys, who is under a fair bit of stress, maybe at home, maybe academic, maybe there's some abuse going on, but maybe not, but is under some psychological stress and has probably a dissociative reaction and faints and does this repeatedly. And other girls mimic her or imitate her. We even saw one little girl who lay down when the older girls were doing it, lay down for about 15 seconds and got up, smiled, and walked back and sat down by her mother, as if to say, you know, I did it just like the big girls did.
So does that mean that the girls are actually conscious of what they're doing? Well, not exactly. Dr. Stewart again.
It's somewhere on a fine line. I think they're somewhat conscious and somewhat not conscious. Maybe like the state we're in when we're just awakening or just about to go to sleep. I don't believe this is simply made up for most of these girls. I think it's an involuntary experience for most of them. But we can't precisely say how much is involuntary and how much is willful.
The real danger of these outbreaks is that the girls may be ostracized by their local community, miss school, and be subjected to expensive medical procedures, which are costly and, more importantly, dangerous to them. For the girls, the fainting is by now like an unwanted tune going round and round in their heads. It's impossible for them to just stop. The best remedy is reassurance and not seeing one another. But in a close-knit community where life is lived outside, that is almost impossible to do. For now, their only option is to wait and let the wave of hysteria go by.
And that's Lucy Ashton reporting.
You're listening to Newsday on the BBC World Service. Shaima and Alan with you this morning. A reminder of our headlines. The Japanese cabinet has approved a draft law to allow the ailing Emperor Akihito to abdicate, and voting is taking place in Iran's presidential elections, with the current leader Hassan Rouhani hoping for a second term. Let's get sports headlines now with Kirsten Webster.
Yes, and we start with Tottenham's one-man goal machine, Harry Kane.
Here's Son, the flag stays down, he's into the penalty area at an angle, he lays it back to Harry Kane, and Harry Kane sticks it away yet again. Alderweireld is overlapping, chips it towards the far post, Wanyama with the header to the far post, and it's headed in by Harry Kane, and there's another glorious Tottenham Hotspur goal. Harry Kane Kane onto the ball on the edge of the area, on his right foot, oh, he smashes it in! Harry Kane has a hat-trick! Here he is on the edge of the area, oh, he scored again! It's a similar finish on his right foot, he slams it low inside the near corner of the net. Harry Kane has got 4 goals.
Yeah, Kane was the obvious standout performer in Tottenham's 6-1 thrashing of Leicester on Thursday. He now has 26 league goals this season, which is 2 more than Everton's Romelu Lukaku in the race to finish as the league's top scorer. The English Football Association has announced a new measure to stamp out diving in the game. They've introduced 2-match retrospective bans for players found guilty of diving to deceive referees. A panel of officials will impose the bans after going through video analysis. But the move has failed to attract universal support. The Crystal Palace boss, Sam Allardyce, called the rule change utter rubbish, and the Swansea manager, Paul Clement, isn't keen either.
If you're on the receiving end of a potential dive that could cost you valuable points, retrospect action is not going to help you and your team. And what it potentially can do is help another team that they're going to be, banned for future fixtures. So I don't see that as the answer.
Marina Sharapova has been awarded a wild card for the WTA grass court event in Birmingham. The 5-time Grand Slam champion has fallen down the world rankings after a 15-month drugs ban. The former boxing world champion, Paulie Malignaggi, says a fight between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor could be the highest grossing in history. The possible showdown moved a step closer after McGregor said he'd signed his half of the deal.
I had my doubts when he first started talking about it, but from what we keep hearing, that there's might be the same possibility that the fight could happen. McGregor is he's basically taking the fight just for the money, in my opinion. I feel deep down he has no chance. But I give him more credit because he's a guy that's actually going to get into the ring. He's actually a guy that's going to make it all the way to the ring and fight.
And finally, North Korean athletes will be allowed to travel through the demilitarized no-go zone in South Korea as a symbolic peace gesture for next year's Winter Olympic Games. Organizers have promised athletes from the north would be able to arrive by road through a 4-kilometer wide zone in which no movement of people is normally allowed between the two.
Justin, thank you very much. A court in Italy has ordered a member of the European Parliament for the country's National League Party to pay over $55,000 in damages to Italy's first black minister over racial slurs. Back in 2013, Mario Bosegio gave an interview to Italian media where he attacked the former integration minister, Cecile Kyenge, who was born in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Now, among other things, he said Africans are Africans and belong to a very ethnicity different from ours. Newsday's Marco Silva gave Cecile a call to get her reaction.
First of all, I am very happy with the court ruling. I feel vindicated that my 4-year-long legal battle has resulted with the MEP having to pay a heavy fine. At the end of the day, this is a strong message against impunity. Those who believe there is no justice should think twice. Through this verdict, the younger generations have also learned that a civilized society is based on mutual respect and zero tolerance for discrimination and racism.
For our listeners who may not be very familiar with the sort of experiences that you had in the past as well, while working as a minister and as a member of the European Parliament, could you perhaps remind us of those?
I am the first black and foreign-born politician to join an Italian cabinet. Italy was a country of immigration. In other words, a lot of people used to leave their villages and regions to find work abroad. But since the 1980s, the trend has reversed. Italy has become a country of immigration, with people from outside coming here to stay. But things have changed so quickly that now many Italians have not been able to adjust to the new environment. Many cannot cope with communities that look different. Many have not adjusted to the idea that Italy is now a diverse society. On a personal level, I received threats and was the target of abuse. Authorities gave me police protection, but I thought that wasn't enough and decided to hire a private lawyer to restore my reputation and clear my name. I then contacted the European Parliament and its legal institutions and managed to have the immunity of the MEP lifted. I'm talking here about the Northern League politician who insulted me. A great number of people helped me in this action, but not a word about them was mentioned in the Italian media. Nonetheless, these people have proved that Italy is not a racist country.
In your work as both a minister and a member of the European Parliament, you've been very outspoken on the topic of migration. For all of those who are still arriving in Europe these days, what kind of message your case sends to them?
These people try to reach Europe in order to start a new life and fulfill their dreams. Many of these migrants come from countries with great resources and potentials. And we have to ask ourselves why these men, women and children decide to leave their homes. They do so because they don't have the freedom to choose what they want to be in their own home countries.
The BBC's Marco Silva there, speaking to Cecile Kienge. You're listening to Newsday on the BBC World Service. The European Commission has recommended the temporary border controls introduced in 5 countries to tackle the migrant crisis be phased out in the next 6 months. The measures were implemented by Germany, Austria, Denmark, Sweden and Norway, despite being part of Europe's border-free Schengen area. But there is resistance, particularly in Germany and in Austria. Bethany Bell has this report from the German-Austrian border region in Salzburg.
Radio Salzburg Verkehrs